Hi, Sebastian here from Wealth Depot. Obviously, overnight, the Morrison government, with some bipartisan support by the opposition, even though Anthony Albanese still had some little stick to give to Scott today in the cabinet, I guess came up with another on the second tranche of stimulus, and all about growing on what they built on the first round, and continue to grow and explore where the economy, where businesses, and where population Australia are going to need further support over the coming weeks, months, potentially even year. So as we know, yeah, the government announced those original measures, which were to be introduced to Parliament this week. As until today, I'm not too sure if they have been passed, but obviously there will be very little resistance to not pass those bills effective immediately. So we'll definitely keep those updates coming, and obviously to let you know when the law has now changed in regards to the proposals. But let's move on and sort of get to the nitty gritty about what they did propose. So with the superannuation system, they have now opened up access to super savings to virtually everyone. There's no longer a need to meet a condition of release to obtain some of your superannuation benefits this financial year and next financial year. You don't have to meet any financial hardship or compassionate ground criteria per se, but there is still some criteria. Basically, you need to meet one of the following conditions: that you are unemployed, that you're eligible to receive job seeker payment, youth allowance, parenting payment, special benefit, or farm household allowance, that on or after 1 January you were made redundant, your hours of work reduced by at least 20%, or if you're a sole trader, your business was suspended or your turnover reduced by at least 20%. So those measures are an or test, they're not an and test. So just be mindful of that. Applications need to be lodged by MyGov, and you'll need to certify that you meet one of the above eligibility requirements. So once ATO confirms you're eligible, they will issue you and your super fund a determination, and the payment will be made to you direct. If for those clients who have a self-managed super fund, arrangements may differ, but essentially it will be available to all super fund members. The payments will be tax-free, and the amounts received will not impact Centrelink or DVA entitlements. And we do expect that the claims will be able to be made by mid-April. So please keep that in mind should you are currently undergoing some financial stress, and that this measure has been released to obviously provide those that obviously see their superannuation as their own money to be able to be used to be able to get access to it in that case. The other super measure that's been introduced is a reduction in the drawdown rates for those that are in pension phase. So our clients that are in pension phase or in transition to retirement income streams will be well aware of these numbers and drawdown requirements. But for this financial year, the government has reduced the current drawdown percentages by 50% going forward, and looking to probably extend that through to next financial year as well. So one thing to be mindful of is that if you already have met your minimum pension, you can turn off your regular drawdowns to ensure that you don't potentially sacrifice liquidity within your super fund when we probably would like to potentially keep those balances in that tax-free or low tax environment. So we can play around with that a little bit just to understand where you're at in your personal cash flow. And the other thing is to say, well, with the transfer balance cap, we don't necessarily want to continue to reduce that, or we can effectively reduce the cap and then look at making contributions at a later date, should those options be relevant and appropriate to you. So there is a little bit of planning in there. I mean, that's not really the end game of these measures. It's all about helping people to protect their retirement savings and not to have to draw down too much in one hit this financial year and next financial year. The other sort of big, personal measures to help people with with funding their living expenses is the additional $700 payment to eligible income support recipients and concession card holders. So the first tax-free payment of $750 will be available to eligible income support recipients as of 12th of March 2020 and is expected to be automatically paid to eligible recipients from 31st of March. So look out for those payments if you are one of those eligible income support recipients. The second payment will be available to those who aren't eligible for the coronavirus supplement, which I'll explain a little bit further down further in the piece here today, but will be automatically paid from the 13th of July. Okay, so eligibility for payment one, right, was that you had to be residing in Australia and receiving one of the income support payments, whereas a holder of one of the concession cards listed in the table that are provided in my sort of presentation notes. So review those. And however, the first $700 payment, you had to be receiving an income support payment on the 12th of March. So if you have applied subsequent to that date, unfortunately, the first payment will not be paid to you. So with the table, just quickly spell it out. Basically, most income support payments, or I think virtually all income support payments, are listed there, and concession card holders, including the Commonwealth Seniors Healthcare Card. So for those that aren't eligible for the age pension because of your assets and income, then you still will be entitled to this payment, and so will carers who also receive the carer allowance. So there are, it is significant and broad-reaching. So please be aware of those. They will be paid automatically to you, and you don't have to necessarily apply for those payments. The coronavirus supplement is this additional payment to new and existing recipients of the job seeker payment, the youth allowance, parenting payment, farm household allowance, and special benefit. So this additional $550 per fortnight payment will hopefully help those people over the next 6 months and will be automatically paid from the 27th of April. So please look out for those that are on those payments or looking to be on those payments shortly, potentially. If you're already receiving a particular benefit or payment and your circumstances has changed due to the COVID-19 virus, your benefit may remain unchanged. However, a change in the circumstances that is not a result of COVID-19 will be assessed under the ordinary rules and may impact your entitlement. So these are measures that are looking to help those that are being directly impacted by the COVID-19 and not under certain other, I guess, circumstance. So just be aware of that and trying to understand these rules. But as always, all changes to your personal circumstances should be reported to Centrelink and the DVA in a timely manner. And that's just to make sure that your entitlements obviously are correct, that you aren't maybe being overpaid, that at a later date you may have to pay back any overpayments, and to make sure that you're just aware of what you're entitled to and making plans accordingly. So recipients of the carer payment who are impacted will not have their benefits change, but childcare subsidies, if your child cannot attend childcare as a result of COVID-19, but you're still charged a fee from your childcare provider, you may still receive the subsidy for up to 42 days of absence. This applies also to non-COVID-19 related absences. If your activity hours change, you don't need to update your activity test where it is due to a requirement to self-isolate or if you're on leave. Okay, so for those that obviously depend on those subsidies to help care for your children, just be aware of those updated measures. New Start or Job Seeker recipients with mutual obligations, for example, New Start or Job Seeker recipients who usually need to be actively looking for work, volunteering or doing some paid work, will be provided flexible options to ensure your safety. This may apply where you're unable to satisfy these requirements because you're self-isolating or you're a primary carer, caring for a child whose school has closed, or a disabled adult whose day service closes. So you may receive an exemption from this requirement without a need for medical evidence. And if you are receiving a youth allowance, say a student, for example, activity requirements for study will be amended. This means that if you're a student and you're unable to attend studies due to the virus, you may be exempt from meeting this requirement. Students and trainees, if you're self-isolating at home or your education provider closes or reduces your study load, your payment won't change. You must remain enrolled in study and have a plan to return, and must tell Centrelink if this doesn't apply to you. Okay, so just be aware of those other measures and how they may impact your circumstance. Now, if you're applying for a benefit, so if you're unable to work, are in isolation or hospital, and you need to care for children as a result of COVID-19, you may be eligible to apply for a payment. Okay, if you apply for a Social Security benefit or concession card and your claim is related to COVID-19, some of the ordinary eligibility rules may be waived. Also, if you're an employee and you're diagnosed with COVID-19 and or are in isolation, you may be eligible for an income support payment if you have no employer leave entitlements. So these are huge. These are huge measures that have been introduced by the government to help provide that urgent financial support for those most in need. Those criteria in terms of waiting periods and asset testing have been somewhat reduced, and so we'll go through that in a minute now. So the ordinary 1 week waiting period that applies to some payments will be waived when you're claiming because you're impacted by COVID-19. The liquid assets waiting period will also be waived if you're entitled to the coronavirus supplement. So if you already applied for the payment and are currently serving a liquid asset waiting period, you won't need to serve the remainder of the waiting period. This applies also if you applied for a payment which is eligible for the coronavirus supplement. The income maintenance period and compensation payments will also be changed, so just be aware of those reduction in those waiting periods. Another important factor that in terms of working out entitlements under the income tests for particular income support payments is the reduction in deeming rates. So a further reduction was announced on the 22nd of March, and the deeming rates will reduce as follows. So lower deeming rate is currently 1%. It will reduce to 0.25% from 1 May 2020, and the upper deeming rate of 3% will reduce to 2.25%. The deeming thresholds will remain unchanged. So 51,800 for singles and 86,200 for couples, which are generally indexed on 1 July. These new deeming rates will take effect from 1 May, as I sort of mentioned. So be aware of that. So that again is to provide hopefully increase in entitlements, especially for those on age pension. So just quickly turning to the business investment measures. I know your accountants, and I know that the good work that Michelle and Romano are doing around these measures in terms of updating and providing communications to their business clients. So just be aware that these measures have been brought in, and if they are likely to apply to you, to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to definitely provide some answers and some clarity around what's going on. So there's a few measures. The small business loans. So relief package from Australian banks will provide support to eligible small businesses by deferring loan payments for up to 6 months where assistance is required as a result of COVID-19. Okay, and the intention is for banks to implement this as soon as possible. So please reach out to your banks, to your lending brokers, and make sure that they're aware of your situation, that you're on their list, and to make sure that they get to you ASAP. The Coronavirus Guarantee Scheme is going to be a government guarantee of 50% of the value of new loans issued by eligible lenders to small and medium-sized businesses. So the intention of this measure is to increase access to loans by businesses impacted by coronavirus. Again, look out for those. Look out, be in contact with your business banking managers to make sure that if you need that assistance, that you're going to be on their radar. Additional lump sum payments to employers. This is a bit of a follow-on from the first round of stimulus package measures. So small and medium-sized businesses and not-for-profit organisations that employ people will receive a payment of between $20,000 and $100,000 to assist with operating expenses. So as previously announced, these payments are linked to withholding tax for employees. Okay, so the measure has been amended to double the amounts that eligible employees can receive. The amount of payment depends on whether the business is required to withhold tax on salary and wages for employees. Okay, so where the employer is required to withhold tax on salary and wages, the employer will be entitled to an amount equal to 100% of the amount withheld, up to a maximum of $50,000. So those employers who are not required to withhold tax will receive a minimum payment of $10,000. So even though generally it's going to be targeting those businesses who obviously employ people to hopefully retain those staff members as part of the business and ongoing support networks, there will be some element of measures to help those sole traders as well. The payment will be tax-free and received as a credit on your business activity statements, all right, by the ATO from 28th of April 2020. So the timing of the credit will vary depending on the required frequency and lodgement of your activity statements. So I guess the tip here is that please get your activity statements in at the end of March as soon as possible. All right, so you can get those those measures offsetting your otherwise payable net GST returns and pay-as-you-go withholding returns as soon as possible. The instant asset write-off from 12th of March, the instant asset write-off threshold will increase from 30,000 to 150,000. Okay, it has also been broadened and will be available to businesses with an annual turnover of up to 500 million for the current financial year, which was increased from 50 million originally. This applies to new or second-hand assets used or installed ready for use by 30th of June this year. The increased write-off threshold will apply on a per asset basis until 30 June 2020. The accelerated depreciation rates of 50% will apply to eligible assets until 30 June 2021, and eligible assets are those acquired after the announcement and are used or installed ready for use by 30 June 2020. However, it does not apply to second-hand assets. Building or other capital works deductible under separate tax provisions. This concession will be available to business with aggregated turnover of less than 500 million. So there are some wins there for small and medium-sized businesses in terms of investment and keeping those cogs working to generate growth and liquidity in the economy. Some other measures that were announced: support for regions and communities impacted by the virus with reliance on tourism, agriculture, and education. So if you are one of those in those industries, and especially in the regional areas, please make contact with your local with your accountant first and foremost, your business advisor, and your local chamber of commerce to see how those measures are going to be flowing through. Administrative relief provided by the ATO for certain tax obligations such as lodging tax returns and activity statements, which will be assessed based on individual circumstances, and a comprehensive health package of $2.4 billion to really provide the support where it's needed at the front line here with our medical providers and research labs. So just be aware of those measures, and obviously if you are in those fields and industries, to be fully across what's going on. Obviously, the next step is to find out how these strategies will help you in your personal life and to provide that cash flow support that you're going to need going forward should your circumstances change due to reduction in working hours and pay and isolation. As always, please feel free to share this information with your family and friends. The more that are aware, the better. And as always, we invite you to obviously let them know that we're here to help and that we're happy to have no obligation, simple chat with them just to understand their current situation and some of the ideas that obviously we like to impart on our existing clients every day, so that way they're across things as well. So as always, stay healthy. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot them through. We had a few questions today requesting some clarifications on some notes raised, so keep them coming. I love them. We definitely, as you know, I will respond in a timely manner, and we're all in this together. So look after yourselves and talk to you soon. Good night.